I think as you were coming here, you saw the police vehicle that is parked outside there. And as far as we are concerned, those are the internal sanctions slapped against the people of Zimbabwe that must go.
Okay. What about those who were imposed by the US and other European countries?
We are saying that we don't have a monopoly on sovereignty. Before we start talking about the sovereign rights that other countries have to take their own measures, we must talk about those things that we are able to control. And the things that we are able to control are the deteriorating human rights situation in Zimbabwe. We are able to talk about the proscription of the people's democratic right to demonstrate. We are talking about the closure of people of democratic space. We are talking, the police are just here outside our Harvest House. They've been blocking our building, stopping staff from entering this building. And we are a legitimate political party which controls 28 out of 32 urban local authorities. But they are here blocking our democratic rights, slapping this party under sanctions, and it is those sanctions that must go. Before SADC talks about any other sanction, they must talk about the sanctions that the illegitimate regime of Mr. Mnangagwa has slapped on the innocent people of Zimbabwe. And we are saying it is those sanctions that must go.
So you beg to differ the SADC and the AU on this new stand that they've taken, that on the 25th of this month, they will be calling for all the countries in SADC and other countries, progressive nations, will be calling for the sanctions to go.
With a great respect to SADC, we are saying that SADC is supposed to up the ante in terms of making noise about the deteriorating situation in Zimbabwe. Only on August 1 in 2018, we had 6 people that were brutally murdered, callously murdered by the police in Zimbabwe, at least according to the Motlanthe Commission report, commissioned by none other than Mr. Mnangagwa himself, and it held the state liable for those murders. Between 14 January and 28 January of 2019, we had 19 people who lost their lives, and the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, a Chapter 12 institution, an independent commission of Zimbabwe, held that the state was liable for those murders. And we are saying that it is those issues that must seize the hearts and minds of SADC. It is those internal sanctions, the brutal clampdown, the deterioration of the human rights situation in the country that SADC must be talking about. When the safety of citizens is under threat, especially from their own government, from the citizens' own government, it is an issue that must exercise the minds of our SADC leaders.
MDC are not worried about these legal sanctions from the US, which at least are not affecting the targeted, but are affecting the ordinary people.
We are saying that there is a nexus between the clampdown on the rights of citizens and what external countries have imposed on Zimbabwe. Once we do away with the sanctions that we have imposed on the people, once we do away with the repression of the people's rights, the external sanctions will automatically go away. And remember, Tendai, remember, it is only in January of 2018 that Mr. Mnangagwa himself that said publicly that we cannot continue to hide behind the mantra of sanctions. That sanctions, we must not continue to talk about sanctions. We have got the temerity and we have got the audacity and capacity to deal with our own internal issues. It is actually shocking that barely a year later is now talking about sanctions, which he said is now a dead issue, which we must no longer talk about as a country.
Okay, moving on just a bit from the issue of dialogue. We understand that there are some talk that MDC talking with ZANU-PF behind the bars, behind the doors. Just can you give clarity? Are you prepared to join the dialogue?
As we speak, the current position is that we are not speaking to ZANU-PF, whether in front of the doors, behind the doors, or on the side of the doors. All we are saying is that what we want and what we are committed to, as a point of principle, is the dialogue that we talk about in our reload document, which is a sincere, honest, and genuine dialogue process, which is aimed at making sure that this country is rescued from the crisis of legitimacy. The country is arrested by the crisis of legitimacy arising out of the stolen election of 2018. And it is that dialogue, sincere and honest, that is brokered by a mutually agreed convener that we are prepared to participate in.
So in the same terms, you are saying you are not recognizing the ruling party as the leader, President Mnangagwa?
He is a disputant. Mr. Mnangagwa is a disputant. And we are only prepared to partake in a dialogue process with Mr. Mnangagwa as a fellow disputant, in a dialogue process brokered and underpinned by SADC or the AU, under a mutually agreed convener, in line with what we state in our reload document.
Well, if somebody keeps this stand that to wait for MDC to come, are you likely to let the people of Zimbabwe suffer because of
The MDC has nothing to do with the suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. It is ZANU-PF that has clamped down on the rights of Zimbabweans. It is ZANU-PF that has become clueless in terms of running the economy. We have nothing to do with this. It is Mr. Mnangagwa that must make sure that he engages in a sincere, honest, and credible dialogue process, underpinned and underwritten by SADC and the AU, to make sure that the country is rescued out of the current morass. That dialogue has to be sincere and honest, not the charade that we are seeing under the Pollard process, where people who are in agreement are speaking to each other. And that is not a dialogue, that is a monologue.